It's complementary. I mean, it's not as long as you provide the news, the information, you can use multiple supports. So it's like saying if a TV is going to replace radio, it's not. And probably radio is evolving to online at this moment, and you hear more radio online than in your car and through the traditional channels. But radio stayed, you know. So it's a little bit the same thing. It's complementary. Depends a little bit on the platforms where you are, and also the kind of content, the people that you are trying to reach. So one, I don't believe it's going to replace totally the other, never. Yeah.
I totally agree. Sorry to be boring, but I totally agree. The reality is that we all get different modalities. I prefer to read rather than watch a video for education, for example, because I can speed read. So I can actually, something that might take 30 minutes on a YouTube video, I can read in 3 minutes. So same with a podcast. But everyone's got different ways of actually, consuming knowledge and information. So they're just totally complementary. I think there's some real trends happening, such as live streaming. Will that replace YouTube? Okay, it won't replace it. It'll just be part of the whole ecosystem of many types of media.
It's adapt considering the target, obviously. If you are writing about lifestyle, it's a different angle if you're writing about breaking news. And sometimes the subject is the same, like the flu is coming to Portugal because it's winter, and it's breaking news because the hospitals are full of people. It's breaking news. Or you explain what you should do this year, that you should vaccinate yourself again in a little bit more long story, and you put it in a lifestyle website. So yeah, it's adapted to the target, the channel again, and the audience.
Well, different content can do a whole range of things. So, for example, video is really good at converting to actual sales. So in other words, because you can see someone's face, you can see their body language. So if you put someone in the marketing sales funnel and you actually train them with a webinar, and there's a call to action at the end of the webinar or at the end of the video, but because you've seen people, it's like a one-on-one conversation you're really having with that video. Video converts really well to sales in terms of an education approach.
Well, by catching their attention, basically. So if content is interesting enough for people to stay reading it, we are changing the whole way we are measuring even our audiences here in Portugal. Basically using reach, so people that are really reading the content in a persona sort of way, and also the time they are spending reading it, more than page views or visits. So yes, if the content is interesting enough, people will have the attention caught, they will stay, and that would be interesting to convert in sales afterwards, or to see the advertisement at least.
Getting people to buy something, which is the sales process, is a rule of thumb that's used a lot, which is that marketing or a sales funnel is 75% education and 25% sales. So what you've got to do is make sure that you educate and create credibility. And that can be done through video, it can be done through an e-book as a lead magnet, and then actually educate people through until you build enough credibility and trust to actually ask for the order. And that's how it works. And that's the same in real life. So the process hasn't changed, just the media. I used a quote yesterday during the presentation, which is, if you want to write a lot, you need to read a lot. There is no other way. And that's a quote by Stephen King, the famous fiction writer. And the reality is that inspiration doesn't come from a vacuum. So what you need to do is you need to feed yourself with good ideas, and they come from reading, watching a TED talk, watching a great video, watching a great movie, reading a book. They're all forms of inspiration, and I think you've got to be feeding your mind and your soul with that form of inspiration, which then goes, oh gee, I want to write about this. So inspiration comes from feeding your mind with great content. Yeah, stories allow people to identify with you as a real person. In other words, it creates that authenticity, and people really want to identify with you. So they want to say, well, that's what happened to me, so that's why I need to do this. So stories are embedded in the human psyche. They've been there for literally tens of thousands of years, and it's part of actually communicating, and it's the art of storytelling. People will forget the facts, but they won't forget how you made them feel, and that's what storytelling does.
Yeah, also because you identify yourself with what happened to someone. So that's really the power of user-generated content, and this kind of allowing everybody to produce and to talk with everybody. So the globalization is basically the internet. It started a little bit with every country producing to the other ones and allowing this free traveling of goods. But actually with the internet, people are connected, well, from here to Australia, in a very, very fast way. So the content that tells a story, that to which you identify yourself, your personal needs as a human being, is the more powerful content actually, yeah. They are interesting for knowing how the world is going and to see if there's something new that you are not seeing already. Basically, at the end, I always feel with the feeling that okay, that's more or less what we are living every day. So we are not too far from it. But it's always useful to share opinions, to understand what is being done in other countries, other realities. So it's useful, yeah. Besides the internet, and that we could do all this in a huge conference globally, summit, or using Skype or something. But it's useful always to get people together and think about these things.
I asked you this question yesterday, but if you'd like to add some information.
Yeah, the reality is that conferences allow you to actually catch up with your tribe. Okay, and I think that's what I really love about conferences, to actually have conversations with the people that share the same interests. So essentially, I've met a lot of people at conferences that I've only met on Twitter 7 years ago. One was Scott Monty, who was the social media head for Ford, and I met him in San Francisco at a conference, or San Diego actually, a few weeks ago for the first time. But we felt like we'd known each other forever. So for me, it's about that real human connection, and also sharing ideas, and also getting a feel for the beat of the street. In other words, what are the trends, what are the conversations we're all having that are common, that are emerging, and I think that's really important. So it's really, conferences are just the human aspect of the tribe and the industry you're in, and I think that they're fun, they're great, and that's why I love them.
In one word would be internet.
Human.